He has never used a shy prophet. There's never been one such a shy prophet. Because as a prophet, you have to talk to kings and you have to be able to articulate things. And that changed how my approach. So it does not matter if I'm introverted, shy, reserved, whatever adjective you use to qualify that. When it comes to me fulfilling my assignment, I'm as bold as David. I'm as bold as a lion. Please join me to welcome a man who has dominated every field he has operated in. He is the reason why I use words like operate, because he served in the FBI as a special agent in the FBI for 23 years. He has done amazing things in leadership. He's led, he's mentored, he has brought people from, trying to use the word he uses, there's something he says about the FBI, that they spend all this time training you. The focus of the FBI is training you. You shoot, I think, 900 and something times, even though you don't get to shoot once. And it's amazing the depth of the wisdom that emanates from him when I talk to him. The vastness. If you talk about cars, he's an avid lover of cars. Talk about a lot of things. He came here with his own photography camera because he's good at that as well. I introduce to you my mentor and a beloved friend, Miguel Clarke.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It's always difficult for me to listen to these types of introductions because I never feel like I know the person that they're talking about. So I know the conversation that Temi and I had, and many of those conversations every Tuesday at about 10 o'clock my time. We're scheduled for 30 minutes. And I don't think we've ever had a 30-minute conversation. It's always longer than that. So yes, it's great to be here. It's wonderful for me from my perspective. Temi gave a little bit of background about me, and I want to go into a little bit more of that background, primarily because I'd written like 10 different speeches for today. And I don't think I'm going to be able to use any of them based on the information that was provided. So if you will bear with me and have a little patience with me, I intend to speak about what was already spoken about today and see if I can adapt some of my own experiences to that so that you will have some of the benefit from that. So first, a word about me. My name is Miguel Clarke. Right? I am the firstborn of 3 children, and I am the only boy. How many, by show of hands, in the room are firstborn? Right, fantastic. Now, are any of your parents here? Anybody have parents here that's firstborn? Okay, wonderful. So let's talk to you over there. Firstborn and parents. So what it means to be firstborn is that you're raised by people who have no children. Right, that's what it means. And so the very people who are raising you are the same people that you wouldn't trust your kids to. Because they have no children. What experience do they have? So you're the firstborn, you're the experiment for your parents. And their expectations, right? My parents look like me. They were both born in Panama, right? The country of Panama, the Isthmus of Panama. And then they moved to the United States. So they immigrated to the United States, migrated there, became U.S. citizens. And so I come from a Latin American, Afro-Latin background. So there's an Afro in there, right? So what does that mean, right? What does that mean? That means that my parents believe in spanking, right? They believe in beating, lashing, whipping, all these other different things. These are things that they believe in. It would be if it were an Olympic sport, then my parents would be gold medalists. So I grew up in a house for discipline and high expectations. And so in those high expectations, your parents think that you can do anything when you're young. Oh, why not? So what would end up happening is I would inevitably do something where I'm, a young boy, and it would earn me a very effective spanking, right? And the spanking comes with a lecture. And I always thought that that was like being tried twice for the same crime. If you're gonna spank me, don't lecture me. If you're gonna lecture me, don't spank me. But you're gonna spank me and lecture me, I'm getting punished 2 times. So in the midst of this punishment, my parents are asking me, why am I crying? It's because you're very effective at spanking. That's why I am currently crying. Plus, I've disappointed you in some way that has necessitated me getting this spanking. And so my parents are asking me in the midst of being spanked to articulate myself. It's my first communication challenge. Learning to speak articulately while sobbing from the pain and understanding that I've disappointed my parents. So this is where it starts. The expectations, very, very high. Failure was never really an option for me. I knew at an early age I was going to go to college. That was the expectation of my parents. I was going to graduate from college. I was going to make something of myself. Why? Because my parents sacrificed. They left Panama and they came to the United States. English was their second language. So they are coming here, well, not here, but to the United States, and they made a great sacrifice so that we, the children, could have better opportunities than they did. So they have invested in me. And they were going to make sure, because they're godly people raised in the church, they're going to make sure that their investment doesn't come back null and void. So it was never really an option for me to fail. Now, my dad was also in the Air Force, so we moved around a lot. I was born in Hawaii, and there's a hospital. If you ever go to Hawaii, you go to Honolulu. It's like a big pink hospital, Tripler General Hospital. That's where I was born. From there, we moved to Abilene, Texas. I was there until about the age of 6 or so. Then we moved from Abilene, Texas to Panama City, Panama. There was an Air Force base there. Then I moved to upstate New York, and then to Nebraska. And so I went from 8th year in not elementary, but education, all the way to the time that I graduated. Went to the University of Kansas, right? And then I ran track there. I ran 110-meter high hurdles and triple jump. And then when I graduated from there, I moved back to Nebraska for a little bit, spent about 4 more years there in Nebraska, and then from there, I went into the FBI, right? And so I came into the FBI in 1998, which most of you guys, if you're doing the math, that lets you know that I'm over the age of 50. I'm a senior fellow, so please be kind to me, to your elders. Please definitely be kind. So, that's me, taking me from early development all the way to showing up at the academy. So now you know my background. I show up at the academy. It is 6/20, 1998. And here I am, and nobody in my class looks like me. Nobody. There's 56 people in my FBI class. None of them look like me. I'm sitting down. And I am last name Clarke, so I'm in the 2nd or 3rd row, so I've got a few names in front of me, a lot of names behind me. Nobody looks like me. What am I doing here? Why am I here? Now, you can tell by my stature if I'm not smiling, but I am smiling because I'm happy to be here. But if I'm not smiling, I have a very serious look. And so people told me before I came into the FBI is, you look like an FBI agent, right? So, oh, you look like an FBI. Oh, you remind me of an FBI agent. You look like an FBI agent. I get to Quantico, to the FBI Academy. I do not look like an FBI agent. They're all, there's like 2 Hispanics, there's 2 people who are Asian, and there's only 1 person who's got dark skin like me that's black. There's only 1 out of the 56. So I'm already starting to feel self-conscious, like I don't belong there. And so what they do is they go through and they tell everybody, hey, why are you here? Tell me about your background. And so one person was a pilot, another person was in the military, we've got accountants, all these very important jobs. I was a salesman, right? Just a lowly salesman. What am I doing at the FBI Academy with all these other people who are excellent at what they do? To give you a little bit of background, in 1998, we had about 120,000 applicants for 1,000 jobs. So that means in the year that I applied, I was in the 1% of applicants. Right? So when I get there, I'm like, I'm mathematically, I know, hey, yeah, I should be there. But this is very, very different environment for me. And so I'm starting to think about, all right, how do I communicate? And there's not a lot of people who look like me, so I'm really trying to be quiet and trying to fly under the radar. So imagine me 6'4". I don't know what that works out to be in centimeters or whatever they use here. We use freedom units in the United States. So I'm tall, and I'm trying to fly under the radar. Not gonna work. It was a poor plan on my part. Okay, so then I graduate from the academy. I'm feeling good, and I'm going into my first assignment in Dallas, Texas area. And again, I'm starting to feel these feelings of inadequacy, and I'm lacking that confidence, right? They call it the imposter syndrome, right? Where you don't believe in who you are. So I want to talk to you a little bit about how I kind of overcame some of that. So overcoming that for me is I went to the materials, right? As a brand new FBI agent, our job is to make cases. So we do investigations. So I would go to the manual that we used, the Manual for Information Operations, Manual Information Guideline, Operational Guideline, MIOG. And so I'm reading, what do I need, what are the elements that I need to prove for my case? And so I go through and I just started learning those things. For everything that I did, I printed that out. And as I'm printing out that, okay, yeah, I'm making sure that for everything that I do, I'm meeting every single one of the elements. So the first thing that happened to me in my career that gave me a little bit of confidence is that I went into my boss and I said, hey, I want to do this, this thing, and this thing. And it was for an international kidnapping case. A man whose wife had taken their kids and she had fled to Costa Rica. And so I'm like, hey, these are the elements that we need to do. It's been more than 25 years. I don't remember what those elements are. And so then my boss tells me, that's not what needs to happen. You need to do these other things because it's a kidnapping case. So I went and I did exactly what my boss told me to do. And I came back to him with the work that he had asked me to do, in addition to the work that I thought I needed to do. So I solved the problem twice. So I handed him the work that he had asked me to do. I did that. And then I also handed him the work that I thought that I was supposed to do, along with a copy of the operations guide that says these are the things that need to be done. And he looked at it, and he looked at me, and he threw out the first thing that I gave him, and he said, I should have known that you would have given me the right information, and I should have trusted you. That was it. First thing, right? It took a year from that point, a year of being there before I felt like I'd gotten a little bit of trust as it relates to that. So I'm starting to move through my career. I'm starting to think, right, I didn't really start to become confident that I could be in the FBI, that I should be in the FBI, that I had value, until somewhere in the neighborhood of about 5 or 6 years in the FBI. So that's where it is. Now, how many of you, by show of hands, think that being in the FBI is a little bit special? Just a little bit, right? Okay. So let me tell you the reality of being in the FBI. The only thing special about being a special agent in the FBI is that you have the power to arrest people. Other than that, the entire organization spends its entire existence telling you that you are replaceable, right? What we would say is all agents are fungible. And so what that effectively means, think in the back there's probably a cup of some sort where you can pour a beverage into. The cup itself, there are probably dozens of them. The cup doesn't matter, it's fungible. If you take the cup, like what happened with my coffee cup the other day, and it was kind of mangled. I was on the airplane, and they kind of bang those coffee cups together to kind of get them started and to open them out of that stack. And so the rim was a little bit chewed up, and the flight attendant didn't want to give that cup to me. So she gave me another cup because the cups are fungible. So you in the FBI, if you as an FBI agent will not do the work, we'll find another agent to do the work, it's fine. I think maybe in the Old Testament there was some story about some guy who happened to be like an uncle, and he told some lady, her name was Esther, if you decide that you don't want to do this thing, then maybe salvation will come through someone else, right? So how do you build confidence in that type of an environment when everybody's telling you all the time that you're replaceable and you can be replaced, and nobody cares about the experiences you had in the past? And oh, by the way, nobody really looks like you either, right? So in the FBI, the time that I left, there were probably around 13, maybe 14,000 FBI agents, somewhere around there. We had about 1,300 African American. And there's probably about 130 African-American female special agents in the FBI, less than 200 To give you an indication, so out of 13,000 FBI agents, less than 200 are black women. So when you see a black woman in the FBI, you are looking at a unicorn, right? They just don't. It just does not happen. And so why I bring that up is because part of that comfort that you have and that confidence you have, you look around and you see people who kind of look like you in an environment where you didn't expect to see people who look like you, and you can draw comfort from that. I walked in here and I had only met like a very small handful of you, but immediately I felt a comfort, like, hey, I'm around my people. You know, not just God-fearing people also, but, you know, people with that African background and descent that I'm connected to, and it made me feel kind of warm and at home. And then what all of you people did, oh, I'm so excited to hear from you. Right, started raising the pressure on me to give something good and useful up here. So that comfort lasted about 37 seconds. And here we are. And like I said, I did have some things prepared, but I didn't want to limit what the opportunity was to come and talk with you. So I decided I was going to challenge myself and use all the information that you guys gave me in the panel and talk through some of those things. So please definitely indulge me as we go through this. I see confidence, clarity, and fear were kind of the top three things. And I'm going to start with fear because I think fear tied to a number of different things that were actually up on the board. So we'll talk about what the purpose of fear is, right? Fear is to preserve your safety. That's what it is to keep you from getting hurt. So then my question, and it's a rhetorical question because I can't take, 47, 57 answers from you, but what does the fear that we feel, what purpose does it have in the common workplace? How many of you routinely work with venomous snakes? Nobody? Oh, so she didn't have a job and she works with venomous snakes. All right, it's wonderful. Yeah, you called me out, I'm gonna call you right back. Yeah. Okay, so how many about dangerous animals? Lions, tigers. Tigers, you're really not supposed to turn your back on tigers. Tigers like to attack you from the back, right? They love that. In India, there have been people who've been known to wear masks, and they wear the mask, and the mask will have the picture of a face on the back because tigers are reluctant to attack you if you're looking at them. They want to move in the shadows. And what I've heard about tigers is that tigers are everything that you think lions are, tigers are. They're kings of the jungle. They're terrifying and super powerful. So when I'm thinking about, I don't even know why I told you that story, if I'm being honest with you. I think I just wanted to impress you with some of that knowledge that I had about tigers. And anyway, let's move on. We're talking about confidence and where that confidence comes from. And, I heard somebody talk a little bit about competence, developing competence, and I couldn't agree more. You must develop competence in everything that you do. You must be competent. So what does that mean? That you're going to practice everything that you do. You're going to look at all the information that you can look at. What is everything that is knowable from your position? Know everything that is knowable from your position. All of it. Start to get people asking you questions. Challenge yourself with the material so that everything that is possible for you to know from your position, that you know that, you've practiced that. You ask the next question and the next question and the next question. This is the thing my wife complains about in me. We can't just sit down and have a nice dinner. She says every dinner with me is like preparing for a job interview for a job she doesn't know if she even wants, and maybe it doesn't even exist. But here's the payback for that. Over the past 4 years, maybe 5 years, my wife has never gone into a job interview and the job interviewers have asked her a more difficult question than the normal conversations that we have over meals. So if you look at fear, which is why I was talking about the tiger to begin with, the fear goes away, right? If you're sitting in your comfortable clothes, having food that you enjoy, talking with a person that you love, and they're asking you difficult questions, more difficult than the interviewers are asking you, what fear do you have of those interviewers? You've got none. Fear's gone, right? One of the things that I want everybody to walk away from, like here, why am I here? I am here because I think that if we can address the root of fear that people may have, even if they haven't fully identified that, and we can reduce the impact that that fear has in every kind of communication that you have in every area of your life, that all of us will feel a little bit more empowered to do whatever it is the Lord has called us to do, right? So if you don't work with tigers or venomous snakes, then really you don't have any need for fear. Because what's the worst that can happen? You can be misunderstood. Or maybe, if you're talking about the very worst, they can decide that they don't want to have you working at the company anymore, and they can fire you or terminate whatever it may be. Okay, well, for me, and I've been through that twice since being in the FBI, the job was never my source. It was my resource. So that means that the source gave me a resource, that resource to be consumed. It never was supposed to be an intentional, not intentional, but never supposed to be an ongoing thing. It was a resource, like the water that's down here. It's a resource for me. I consume it. When it's done, it's done. And even if I don't consume it, I may walk away from it before finishing it, and it's going to be finished. That's it. End of the discussion. And so now I've removed all of the power that my employer has to generate fear in me. It's all gone. So now that I don't have to worry about fear, now I don't have to be concerned about my own personal safety. I don't have to worry about being misunderstood. We start to talk about communications, the root of the word, That means that we're going to make things, common, coming together. So I have my part. And we talked about what my part was, to know everything that was knowable from the speaker's perspective. And then they have their part. Yeah, in American football, I'm throwing the ball, and then you've got a receiver that's going to catch the ball. And I imagine in what they call soccer in my country and football here, you still make passes. You have the person who passes, one person has the ball, they'll pass it to another individual, right? Make the best pass that you can, try to get the ball where the receiver wants the ball, so that the receiver can have the most impact. That's my responsibility. All right, that's what I mean by developing that competence, doing everything that you can do. All right, that's great. Now, how many of you, by show of hands, know somebody who's really, really smart and wants you to know how smart they are all the time? Oh, see, look, the kids' hands went up first, right? So yeah, everybody knows somebody who's really smart, and they want you to know just how intelligent and articulate and good-looking and all the other adjectives that they've ascribed to themselves that you have not yet ascribed to them. They want you to know. So being the most articulate, being the most knowledgeable is not enough, right? Most of us don't want to be around that person who is the smartest person and wants everybody in the room to know it. Nobody likes being around that individual. So if you happen to be that individual, you think about what is valued most on teams. And what's valued the most on a team is a person who is open and a person who has integrity, right? So you want that person who's open. And the open people are like, yeah, sure, what are we going to do? This experience here has been an extreme test of my openness. Right? Usually I'm talking about cybersecurity. I'm very comfortable with that. If you wanted to pivot to cybersecurity, I could start right now and I could speak until this microphone dies and then that microphone over there dies as well. So this, in this format, behind something that looks very much like a pulpit, I could not be more uncomfortable and feeling like this is not where I'm supposed to be. Right? Test of that faith. I don't have something prepared. Normally I'm over-prepared. And I decided not to use any of the materials that I used to get myself prepared to be here. When I was driving on the way here, my wife was taking me to the airport, and she said, send me your hotel information. I was like, I don't have that yet. And she nearly stopped the car. And she's like, why don't you have that? That's not like you, and and all the times we've been married, 20 years at this point, I've never seen you not have information for me. And even though she knows Temi, she loves Temi, said, I don't know what you're doing. Tell me what you're doing on this trip. Yeah, I don't really know what I'm doing either. I know I'm supposed to go because all of you have met Temi, right? So you've all met Temi. So you know what it means to know Tammy, right? And so Tammy's like, hey, I have this idea. Will you come? And I'm like, yeah, I'll be here. I don't know what I'm doing. And outside of Tammy and the fact that I believe that Tammy to be a God-fearing man, that God shared something with him, I said, all right, I'm coming. And my wife knows that I usually get compensated for my speaking engagements, and she's like, they're not doing that. And I'm like, no. She's looking at me strange. And I asked rhetorically, playfully, and irreverently, and I shouldn't have, hey, you know what should I charge God for my time? What would be an acceptable fee for me to charge God? Because I know if I start to charge God for my fee, he's going to have something to say about this, right? He's that kind of God, right? He's just like, Job was his servant and this, favorite. He's like, hey, I'm not even on that level. And we see over like 3 chapters what he did to that guy, right? Yeah, where were you when? I was like, yeah, I don't really have time to go through all the where was I, right? And you know everything, so why are you asking me questions that you know the answers to, except to put me in my place? So would it not be better for me to put myself in my own place? So I go, and I leave the rest to God. That's all I can do. So why did I decide to come up here and to speak, even though I had nothing in the way of real confidence to come up here and to do that? Because it's the obedience piece, right? And I'm looking for things in my experience that can help add value and provide some context. If I can talk to you about some of my challenges, some of the things that I go through that I routinely have to overcome, maybe you'll look and say, hey, yeah, you know what? I can do that too. And I'm going to go off script from the script that I didn't even have, and we're going to talk about the word can't, cannot, and the concept of cannot. So I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant. I hate cannot. I hate can't. More often than not, you won't do it. And I think it's better to say, I will not do that. I've chosen not to do that. That is a much stronger statement. When you say I cannot, you've given it to the circumstances. Oh, I can't do that. Okay, well, instead of saying you can't do that, talk about the obstacles that you have, that you see that's there. And then say, these are the obstacles that are in front of me. But I think that when you say that there's something you cannot do, I think that's lazy. So I would encourage every one of you strongly not to use that word and to make that statement. If you decided not to do it, that is a different thing altogether. And that's a much stronger statement. Oh, you know what? I'm going to go. Can you come over here and you do this? And you're like, no, I can't do that. I'm like, well, actually, this is the conflict that I have. And I value that. And this is an extremely important concept to bring to you, for you to bring to work, right? Being able to reframe the things that you're working on right now. Say, hey, you've assigned things to me that appear to have competing priorities. So which one is priority number one? Will you be okay with me deprioritizing these other things that I'm working on that you've asked me to work on? Well, no, everything's a priority. Okay, well then let's restate what you've said. Everything is a priority. There's only enough time in the day for me to do the job that I'm assigned to do. You're adding some additional tasks, and your expectation is that I'm going to do all of the work, the 8 hours worth of work that you've asked me to do, that I'm contracted to do. You want me to do that work, and then you also want me to complete the other work that needs to be done in the same time period for no additional compensation. Is that what you're asking me? Right? Now who feels uncomfortable? Do I feel uncomfortable because I've restated exactly what the scenario and the situation is? Or do they feel uncomfortable because I put their ask in context? This is what I'm hoping that each of you will take the time to do in your professional lives, in your personal lives, to restate those things so that people understand exactly what it is that they're asking you to do. About 2.5 weeks ago, we have some godchildren. They live very close, and we were asked, "Hey, can you take care of little Raymond?" Right, like he's I don't know, 13-ish, right around there. Can you take care of him because he needs to go to band practice and do some other things? Sure, no problem. But in that ask, there were other additional tasks that were associated with that had we known about those tasks, that maybe the answer would have still been the same, but we would have taken a little bit more consideration in giving that answer. So don't be afraid to ask questions, right? If there's something you don't understand, say you don't understand it. That's really difficult for me when I say that I don't understand something. Yeah, I'm an FBI agent, retired FBI agent. Now I'm supposed to know the answers to everything. Every question that you're getting ready to ask me, you think that I have an answer. But sometimes I'll say, hey, I don't understand the question. And even if you're like, hey, I understand the question, a lot of times there's a motive behind those questions, and the motive behind the question is more important than the question itself. So that's something that I'm always interested in. And so when we're talking about communications and the confident communications and effective communications, understanding what the other person needs is really important. One of the panelists was talking about emotional intelligence, EQ, and how important that is in communications. Also talked about compassion and empathy, right? People are not going to listen to anything that you have to say. They don't really care how much you know until they know how much you care about them, how important they are. And people can tell, right? They can tell. If you go and you shake somebody's hand and you're looking past them and you're looking for the next thing, or you're trying to go someplace else, they know when they don't have your undivided attention. And so I try to give as much of that when I'm talking to somebody. I try to be in the moment. I try to be present in that. And I think that's tremendously helpful in your communications. And so when I was at breakfast this morning, I had mentioned that I always want to give people a reason to listen to what I have to say. So before I start to speak, I'm thinking about, why should you take the time to listen to me? And if it's because of my credentials, then I'm using positional power. If it's because of something that I can personally give, then now it's a little bit more about me. And so that's important to me. It's like, hey, why should you listen to what I have to say? I want to share some things with you, and I think that if you put some of those things in practice, I think that it's going to change the power dynamic in your day-to-day interactions and shift it more toward you, with you being in control. Now, with that control comes some accountability. Things go right, hey, I did a good thing. Things go wrong, it's my fault, right? And I think that is a great position to be in, especially for Christians to be in. As Christians, we are supposed to make the world different because we were there. And how do we do that if we don't have confidence and we don't have competence? Like it's impossible, right? So I believe that's part of the reason why the Bible tells us to renew our mind with Scripture, right? Because now I don't have to give my message, I'm giving God's message, right? I can be irrelevant if I'm giving God's message. I can be as irrelevant as the cup that your coffee or tea is in. If it doesn't work, we'll get another one, right? Bottled water doesn't work, same water, we'll get you another bottle. It's going to be fine. So if I then become insignificant to that larger message, then I have no reason to be confident or not confident. I have no reason to be shy because it was really never about me. And so that is one of the things that I try to bring to every one of my communications. I'm like, it's not about me. And I go as far as to say that maybe I don't even matter in the conversation, right? Like I'm just a vessel to be used in this particular area. And for me, it's important for me to maintain that humility as much as I can. And I don't think I ever attain it, but it is important for me to try. And I love the way that I heard somebody say it, that all glory belongs to God, but what does that really mean, right? You glorify God. Like, glory is above everything, right? Like, we're giving the very best to God when we glorify God. And he said, we can't handle glory. We weren't designed for glory. Our bodies can't handle it. In fact, we can barely handle praise. right? We can barely handle praise. You go up to some younger girl and you start telling her how pretty she is, right? Like she's like 4, look how pretty you are. And start getting shy and the behavior starts changing. They can barely handle a compliment, let alone praise, let alone glory. And that's us, right? So that's one of the things that I start to think about. I don't want to be like Lucifer was, who took an assessment of himself and said, I think it's time for me to challenge God. Right? And that's fine. God smacked him down so hard that he didn't even fire him, right? He remains an employee to be summoned whenever God says to come, right? So we see how that works out. All right. How are we doing? Anybody regret coming here? They're like, this guy. So thank you for the feedback. That's great. But if it's not hitting where it needs to hit, there's still time for a pivot. So it's important to me because this is your time. And I want people to get out of this time everything that they can get out of it. All right, so we move on from notes. What about what's essential for clarity? So as we start to talk about the 3 things, I'm going to move to confidence or clarity. We talked about confidence, talked about fear, and then we can go to clarity. And we go to clarity, it's not biblical wisdom that I'm using here, but what's common reading for a lot of military academies, of which I did not attend, is The Art of War by an author named Sun Tzu. And I think the principles are good, and you can probably tie them to biblical principles anyway. But you got to know yourself, right? You got to know your adversary in the book, or the person that you're communicating with, the person who's on the other side of the table from you. And you got to know the environment in which you're operating in. And if you understand all of those things and you make plans for those things, then you don't have to fear the outcomes, right? So you notice what we're trying to do. We're trying to reduce the anxiousness and the fear and the impact, because no good decisions are made under fear and duress, right? They just aren't. You can't function well like that. And so people will ask me, it's like, hey, why do you always look happy? Like, why are you always smiling? Like, what do you know? And so here's what I know. I know that when I'm happy, that people are going to look at me and they're reflexively going to want to smile, right? That's how we're built as human beings, for that connection that one of the other speakers mentioned about how important connection is. So I'm smiling, you're smiling. It's like, why are you smiling? I don't know. Why are you smiling, Miguel? I don't know why I'm smiling. But now that we're smiling, we're starting to feel good. Whatever's happening biochemically in our bodies is removing the obstacles to making good decisions now. Because we make better decisions when we feel good and when we're in a good mood, right? And we're fed, we're healthy, we're well rested, all of these things. You know, the Bible tells us to renew ourselves daily. And so if you do end up renewing yourself daily, you maintain a state of this joy, which is exactly what the Bible tells us we're supposed to have. We're not supposed to be anxious for anything. And so if you have that state, now you are capable of always making the best decisions that you're capable of. Right? I don't really have any use for the Bible if I can't practically apply those things in my life when I have the challenges, the most significant challenges in my life. So I'm not going to read scripture from you, but if you start thinking, it's like, oh yeah, there's a biblical principle that's tied to that. So I'm not going to be anxious about anything, not even flying 10 hours to come here to talk to people that I've never met on a topic I'm not comfortable speaking on, and that I've changed just a minute before I came up here, right? So no need for me to be anxious at all, right? Thanks for that. So, know yourself. What am I bringing to the situation, right? Everybody wants to be heard, right? We heard that earlier today. That's true. So if I'm a speaker and I want to be heard, now I'm the subject of the conversation because I want to be heard. I'm the subject now. It's like a self-licking ice cream cone. Doesn't even need you to eat the cone. It licks itself. Doesn't make any sense. Right? So at the end of the day, if you go back, there's a book from, I think it's like 1994. It's called like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And one of those things is to seek first to understand and then to be understood. right? So that is the first thing that I'm trying to do. What am I asked all kinds of questions in the car, on the car ride, right? We had 2.5 hours. Tell me about what you see as the most significant problem that's here. What do people suffer from culturally, hey, we tend to be a little bit more, humble. We tend not to think too much of ourselves. And we'll say things like, I'm just this, or I'm only this, as though whatever that only thing is a low thing. This morning, I actually got a text message from a professor, right? And he's been a professor 8-ish years, right? An esteemed individual. You may see him over there, standing, sitting with a big smile over there. And he was one of the people that was driving me home from the airport. And I went home, but here from the airport. I was with Tammy. I was with his lovely daughter. And so we're going home. And so he texts me this morning, and he tells me, it's me, the driver. How many of you know him as the driver? That's who he identified himself to me as the driver, as if to say, I am only the driver. If there were no driver, I wouldn't be here. So only the driver? And sharing with me his background and sharing with me, his thoughts about things have helped inform what we're talking about here this morning, now afternoon. But only the driver, right? There's a point in time where the humility reaches its fill, and we need to kind of look on the other side and see who were we really created to be. And we've got to balance the humility with who we were created to be. Those both have to be hand in hand, right? And in Genesis it says, I know we're made to rule, so that makes us kings, right? So what king is going to tell you I'm only the driver? I don't deserve that honor, right? But that's the way that we're supposed to respond only really to one, right? And that's our Lord. That's the only one we're supposed to show that kind of deference to. And so when people are looking at, me showing some level of humility, I don't want them to see something that is more than what I'd give to Christ, if that makes sense. Right? Because if I start, this, no, hey, it's an honor to be here. Yes, it is. And whatever humility I have it in knowing that I was worth dying for. And that I was put in a position created to be like the King in his image himself. So that's important. You're going to have to figure out what that balance is. I shouldn't do this, but I will. How much time do I have? How much time? Probably have maybe 10? 10 more minutes? All right, fantastic. Is that really 10? 15. Tammy said 15. All right, so very good. I got 15 more minutes. I'll tell this story. Way back when I was a single man, and I was going out and I was dating, I found that it was very difficult for me to assess my level of attractiveness. I don't know how attractive I am. If I put a number on it, whatever that number is going to be wrong. So how do we know exactly to the number how attractive we are? We don't. We're either going to overestimate or we're going to underestimate, right? That's just the nature of things. And just because one person would give me one rating doesn't mean that everybody's going to give me the same rating. We looked at those questions and the chart that had come up there. There were different questions resonated with different individuals. It's the same thing. So what keeps me humble is that if I went out on a date with somebody and that person was attractive or maybe a little less attractive to me, and then if I were rejected, then it would be the same thing. I've been rejected by people who were attractive and less attractive. And so at the end of the day, I'm not worried about the attractiveness, right? Because I've dated people who are more attractive and less, and then I've been dissed by, right? I've been ignored by, I've been insulted by people who are more and or less. And so at the end of the day, really, it doesn't really matter. What I found mattered most to me is for me to care about what the other person was getting from their interaction with me. So when I met my wife, my lovely wife, which is probably a better story for me to have told anyway, she was singing at a very large church. So we had probably about 7,000-ish members there, and it's over 2 services. So there are probably about 3,200 people that were there singing. I see her, she's singing the solo with the choir, and I'm like, I'm going to marry that woman. It's what I said to myself. I did, just for the record. But in that, she wasn't interested in having a relationship. She wasn't interested in me. She wasn't interested necessarily in any of the things that I had to say. And if I had come to her thinking, oh, wow, I'm an FBI agent and I know all these things and I do all this stuff and it's so cool and I'm so cool and you should be interested in me, she would not have been interested at all. Tabitha would have turned the other way and it would have sounded like every other potential suitor. So what I decided I was going to bring is, hey, I'm going to make your life better. And here's how I'm going to make that life better. I'm going to challenge you at every single turn. My vision for my wife is greater than what her vision was for herself. And I will tell you right now, there is nothing that is more annoying and irritating to her than me. Because I always see her as more than what she can be. And so what she routinely would accuse me of is not being happy with who she is. And married men in the room, if you heard that, what would your instinct be? Right? Your wife is complaining to you that you're not happy with anything and that you're too hard on her. Married men in the room, what's your instinct? What are you going to do? Are you going to go easier on her? I mean, she's complaining, and God gave her to you. It's your responsibility. Things break, even if she broke it all, it's your fault, it's your problem, it's your issue. And your wife is giving you important feedback that we already heard is important for us to listen to. She said, you're being too hard. What do? Yeah, not an easy thing. Because if we reflexively just give in to what she says, then we're really no different than Adam was in the Garden of Eden. And if we completely ignore what she says, then we're no different than every other person that would take advantage of her. So there is no one easy answer that's there, but that's the challenge. And so my challenge is, look, this is the way that I see you. This is what I see in you. I see natural leadership skills in you. I see the kinds of things in you that you can't teach, right? People can teach me how to be a good leader. What you naturally bring is an empathy that can't be taught. And she's thinking about all these other things. She's, oh, you know what, do we have enough water? And are the tables put close enough together? Or are they too close? And then, right, is there an odd number of chairs? And then, maybe a young woman ends up sitting by a guy and she doesn't want, like she's thinking about all of these things. And so she goes into a situation and she never thinks of herself as, I'm important, I'm the leader. She's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And this is the conversation that we always have. And we have that daily. She's like, well, I don't know, I'm not sure. And then I'm like, but don't focus on what you don't know. Focus on what you do know. Because they didn't bring you here to do things that you don't know how to do. They brought you here to do things that you do know how to do. So do those things well. Do them extremely well. And if they don't like it, that's their problem. If they want to get rid of you, that's their problem. Because guess what? Excellence doesn't taste good to everybody. Yeah, it just doesn't. Mediocre people hate high performers. They irritate mediocre people. Well, high performers really don't like mediocre people either. They really don't. They really, really dislike those individuals. They don't really belong together, right? They don't belong on the same team. They don't belong on the same bus. And they don't deserve to go to the same place in the afterlife. Hey, if you sin first, you're gonna have a hard time in heaven, man. It's like, it's not your jam, right? Like, that's not for you, right? And if you're like, God first, Christ first, then you'll find hell to be super uncomfortable, man. It's really not the place that you want to be. And I guess for me, the point is that there's always going to be separations between individuals. There will always be that. And so what I want to determine in a conversation is, am I speaking with an honest broker, somebody who really is seeking to understand me and what I'm saying? And if they are, I'll give them everything. Like, I'll sweat and I'll keep going well beyond that time if I'm dealing with an honest broker. If I'm not dealing with a person who's an honest broker, I don't care how you feel. I don't care. Now, I won't say that. What I will say is to them, if they ask me to do something, why would I do that? Yeah, why would I do that? The thing that you've asked me to do, why would I do that? Now, if they are doing what I think we've all agreed that we probably should do, then you've already thought about that answer before you get asked that question. So with my wife, why should I marry you, Miguel? Well, I tell you what, I'm going places and I want to take you with me. Yeah, I'm going places, I want to take you with me. And this is where maybe the not so Christian side came out. And I said, you can either be a part of it or you can read about it. So she's a part of it. Glory to God. So, wrapping up. Confidence, clarity, fear are the main things that you said that you're really concerned about from a standpoint of effective communications, which is key to mastery. Right? You're not going to get to a point of mastery until you can demonstrate some level of mastery. And effective communications are one of the things that make people believe, hey, yeah, this person knows what they're talking about. Yes, they can help me. So I think that we've covered those things. So what I'd like to do right now is I'd like to kind of turn this over to the audience and open up for some Q&A, if that is okay, if it pleases the court. I prefer Q&A to like normal speaking, so this is what I've been looking forward to this entire time. No, okay, wait a minute. All right. This is not the place for shyness. I've traveled a long way to hear your questions. And I also want to make sure that I'm giving the best that I have to you. And I have no way of knowing what that is unless you ask questions. And any questions, anything?
We have a question. Raise my hand.
Come on, podcaster, you know you have a question.
I didn't raise my hand, but okay. Pretty much what we were discussing about. I like how you started with when you became an FBI agent, you were like, I can't see anybody here that looks like me.
Yes.
And I've had my fair share of like experience with, coming to the UK. Obviously, I'm an immigrant here. A lot of us are.
Yes.
And it's just really hard to sometimes pass your message across to them when you're in the workplace and you're like, the way we speak in Nigeria, the way we talk to each other, the way we banter is very different here. The culture is different.
Yes.
There are mannerisms as well. Sometimes my manager said something to me and I knew there was more to what he was saying. So sometimes it's not just the words, but it's like the way they say it as well. So I think for me, my question is, how do you overcome like coming to a new place, the British culture? You've had your experience with the American culture. How do you basically overcome communication challenges with like, a new culture? Wonderful,
good question, and then you have a microphone so I don't have to repeat it. For me, overcoming those challenges has to do with remaining curious. Right? So I want to be inquisitive. I want to ask questions. I want to know more about your culture. I want to know more about you. And every second that I'm answering a question, I'm withholding judgment in my mind. I don't want to come to any conclusions whatsoever, because as soon as I come to a conclusion, I'm no longer effectively taking information in. So I want to remain curious. Tell me a little bit more about that. And so maybe specifically in your situation, when you're talking to someone, in my culture, we would say this. And I would say this to you if I wanted to improve our relationship. And this is how you know that I have trust for you or that I have respect for you. And so I would say it this way. How would you say it? Okay, what supervisor, manager, boss, what do you want me to take away from this conversation? Is it, do you want me to feel bad? Is that your intention, to make me feel bad? So let's get it stated, because it is going to be the intention of some people to make you feel bad. So, ask them what their intentions are. Did you want me to feel bad? So let's give an example. Hey, we're here and we need you, Miguel, to come in to work this weekend. Now, keep in mind I'm a salaried employee and the weekend work is really going to be uncompensated. And I've already got something scheduled and planned. And the boss is calling and saying, hey, Miguel, we need you to come in and to work. That I have plans with my family already. I have no problem working, but I have those plans. Can you tell me why I should prioritize the work over my plans? Well, the work needs to get done. Well, my family's important too, so the work's important, the family's important. What would you recommend that I choose? Well, obviously family, but you still want me to come into work. How can I balance that? How do I show my family that their time is important when I'm not respecting their time? Yeah. And if work always gets to infringe upon personal time, then shouldn't personal time infringe upon work sometimes? So if you need me to be flexible to go where you want me to go on my time based on your position as opposed to your relationship with me, like there's some people that I would want to work for free, and there's some people I would not. So if it's one of those people who just has the relationship, not the relationship, but they just have the position, then I'm going to make it very clear that their power is just positional. And I want to get their statements on the record as to what it is that they're asking for so that I get an idea as to what they're saying. So quick story, because I think I have maybe one more minute. So when I was coming here, they had shut down the TSA, the Transportation Security checkpoint line for pre-check, which is expedited. So I was in this very, very long queue with lots and lots of people. And it took me 35 minutes to get through that queue. And while I was there was a man who was walking by all these people, telling people, like, hey, my flight is getting ready to leave and I'm afraid I'm gonna miss it. And he was walking by, I said, can I get past you? Can I go by? Can I go by? And he had gone through 75% of the queue until he got to me. And he started to walk by me and said, not so fast. Are you asking me if you can go, or are you telling me that you're going? So what I said to the man, day before yesterday, and he stopped. And I said it loud enough for everybody in the queue to hear. He said, oh, of course I'm asking. It didn't sound like you were asking to me. It sounded like you were telling me what you were going to do. I said, no, sir, I apologize. I apologize. I am asking. I said, then by all means. The Bible does tell us that we should always remain ready to give an account for our faith. It never tells us to be in subservient positions. It tells us who we are. It tells us why God loves us. It tells us why he thinks we're important. And it tells us all of those things before he tells us to go do a thing. So he starts with the relationship aspect of it. I've done everything for you. I saved you, I cleaned you up, I washed you, I presented you, I trained you, I taught you, I provide for you, I give you challenges, I correct you. Now go. So we can't be in a position, this community is not going to allow us to be in a position to focus on the things that we don't have. And I'll leave you with this last statement that was said by one of my counselors. He said, if the FBI didn't give it to you, you don't need it, right? And so we'll apply that here. If the Lord didn't give it to you, then you don't need it. And so that's my time. Thank you.
I would say you have got the rare privilege to have a taste of what I enjoy every Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Promise you, without fail, we have hours of conversation every Tuesday, and I'm always blessed. Thank you very much, sir, for this. Let's have a round of applause for Miguel. I knew there was a question that didn't get asked. Do you still have your question? Oh, the questions are rolling in. Please let's start with her, because she had her hand up first.
My question is, what role does self-assurance play in clear and persuasive communication?
Okay, I don't think I got that all the way.
What role does self-assurance play in clear and effective communication?
Self-assurance.
In clear and persuasive.
Persuasive. Okay, so if you go on the internet and you look up, the answer to your question, it's going to tell you that the self-assuredness is very important. And it's going to tell you a lot of focusing on self. It's going to talk to you about, self-talk and positive affirmations and all of those things. And the assuredness and self-assuredness is important. But for us in this room, it's much more important to be connected to the source, if that makes sense. So the self-assuredness that you have should come from the fact that you've studied the material that you're going to give and that you know who you are as a created person in Christ, if that makes sense. Like, that is really, really important, because when that happens and when you have that, the fear diminishes in importance. If you spent all the time that you can possibly spend studying appropriate amount and you know everything that's knowable from your perspective, then you give your best. If you've given your best, then the rest doesn't matter, right? So you'll leave that up, hey, be anxious for nothing, and for everything else you pray about it. So it's very important for you to have some level of that confidence in self, knowledge in self, in order to have effective communications. If you do not, you will bring all of your emotional obstacles, like any one of us will, to every single one of those conversations, and then you're going to be tempted at points during the conversation to get validated and to get your own needs met. So it makes a lot more sense to have all of your needs met, like your needs that you have and for the conversation, that you're not looking for that conversation to validate you or to make you feel important or to make you feel good, because that's a lot of power to give somebody else, especially when they don't know that they have that power. Did I answer your question? Okay, now I want to point something out. I saw her hand go up like this, right? So it wasn't like, hey, I have a question and I want you to answer that question. So you have a question, your question's valid. Now, we may or may not answer those questions, but always say it with your chest, right? Like, what you have to say is important, because people clapped based on the answer, the question that you asked. So I want you to notice that. Next question.
First of all, I'm honored that you're here. I am from South America as well. From Peru.
Peru, yes.
Okay. I've got a question. While you were working at the FBI,
yes,
was there any time at all while you are in a mission that you said, Lord, I need your wisdom and your clarity to save this case?
So specifically, no, because I feel like I was prepared, and I think I asked for that up front. So I start with that. Like, I don't expect to be successful unless God helps me. Yeah. And I've gotten to the point now where I depend on it so much that I can't really say that I ask. Like, for example, coming here, I wasn't like, oh, Lord, I sure hope you can give me some good words to say. Like, my God is small. Of course he has something. And the more I question him, the more I show that I don't trust him.
Okay.
So, yeah, he's going to make this wonderful. So it doesn't matter what I do, just need to stay out of the way. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is to get to that point where you're expecting God. And that you're not like, oh, you know, I wonder if, make sure that your God is larger than every circumstance that you'll ever find yourself in. And I believe that mine is. So I think he's bigger than any of the uncertainty that I had here, any of the questions, any of the doubts, any of those things. I believe he's a lot bigger than that. And so if I ask him little, tiny, small questions that I don't need to ask him, and it's like, Miguel, you know that. You know I'm God. You know I can do everything except for fail or sin. So at the end of the day, yeah, great. No problem. So that's how I handle that. So specifically for that, no, I haven't. But I will say that there have been a number of times where I thought, hey, you know, things could go really poorly. I don't have time to talk about it right now. But yes, there's been times where I thought that somebody was going to lose their life and that we were in physical danger. And I'm glad that it worked out well. So I'll happy to have an aside conversation about that whenever they allow me to.
Okay, thank you.
More questions? I'm happy when, yeah, as long as I'm not infringing on anybody, I am happy. Something tells me that this esteemed gentleman right here is going to bring the house down regardless of what I say or do. So I already know. I'm just warming up the crowd for him so they pose no resistance to you whatsoever. We'll neutralize them right here and now.
Hi, my name is Samuel Praise. I loved your session, and you said something about when you were going to the FBI, you had the background in sales. Now, that interests me a lot because I also work in sales and marketing.
Yes.
And like you said, in your environment, you're the only black-skinned person there. You felt not fit there, or yeah.
Yes.
So in my office, I'm the only black person as well.
Yes.
In my office. And anytime I hit targets or goals, achievements, I'm always in a constant battle of showing them that it's light work for me, all right? But there's something that always gets to me a lot. I speak to customers now. British people in quotes, face-to-face, they are different from when they are over the phone.
Yes.
So over the phone, I see the worst of natures over the phone.
Yes.
Now, there are some that, if I ask you a simple question as, what is your name? They can take the piece and say, what are you saying? And I'm like, I just ask, what is your name? Sorry, I can't hear you. You have a strong accent. I'm like, I only asked, what is your name? That's very clear. Now, when I do my pitch, whatever, and it goes well, get the sale, whatever, when a customer always says, you have a strong accent,
yes,
psychologically, it gets to me. So, in my tonality, in my face, it's always cool. I do my job. I try and close whatever. But in the back of my head, that pissed me off. But I don't know. Is there something I can say back? I mean, I'm always tempted to. I mean, I don't want to lose the lead. I don't want to lose the sale. So they say it. I just carry on like I never heard it, but I heard it. And I'm like, you also have an accent. So we both have accents, but I'm listening to you. So I'm sure you can hear me, but you're taking the piece by saying that. Is there something I can say back? Or should I just do my job and just continue?
So let me start with a story. And it'll be a very short one. Early on in my relationship, my marriage, I was offered the choice. And the choice is really, do I want to be right or do I want to be happy? And so you have to choose. So you have to ask yourself, what's the outcome that you're seeking? What's important to you? What have you prioritized? And then you'll order your responses based on that. I expect disrespect. I expect it. I never let it surprise me when I find it. Ever. I'm prepared for the disrespect. And then I'm prepared to excel. leaving them with the question. Because you're disrespecting me. The only reason why you're disrespecting me, first of all, it's intentional. Anytime you ever experience disrespect, it's not accidental. It is intentional. Treat it as such. That's a conscious choice to disrespect you. It is never incidental. All right, so you chose to disrespect me. Why? Because you've placed yourself above me. Hey, but we're all created people, so we're all at the same level when it's all said and done, but you think you're above me. So then, when I outdo you with my excellence, you'll become subordinate to me. And it'll be clear to you. And remember how I told you mediocre people don't like excellent people? So I expect people to dislike me. Because when people dislike me, I know I'm dealing with somebody who's not excellent. Because excellence recognizes excellence, it's drawn to excellence, and we like being around each other. You see somebody who's really good at what they're doing, I want to meet that woman. I want to meet that man. I want to have a conversation with them. I want our excellences to come together and blend. So my challenge to you is to continue to excel. If you find that your language or that it's an impediment for you getting to what you really want, then change that, right? We shouldn't be here 6 months or 8 months in a year and you're telling the same story. So change the story. And I'm not saying that your accent needs to go away. You might just want to say, thank you very much. I'm very proud of where I've been, and I'm proud of where I am. I'm here to serve you. So, and everybody that you talk to in a customer service job is going through something. So I imagine that I'm talking to people on not their best day, not their best time. And so I'm going to give him grace on that, the same kind of grace that I'm definitely going to need when I go before my king and he starts talking about the things like, you're seeing the best parts of me here, but there are other parts that are not so good. And for those parts, I'm definitely going to need some grace. So I'm trying to show as much grace as I can while I'm here, because I hope that I get credit for it later on. And be like, hey, you remember when I showed all that grace? You remember that? Yeah, because I'm going to need all of that. So that's really my challenge to you. Work on the parts that you can work on, get to the point where it's reasonable, where you're not diminishing yourself and who you are. Communicate as clearly as you can. Think about what you want for that individual. It's like, hey, this is what my intention is. My intention is to help you, right? I want to make your life better. And either you want to join me in that or you want to oppose me, and it's your choice. And I'm okay with whatever it is that you choose. The same way that the Lord is basically okay with the people who've chosen they're incompatible with heaven. He respects that. So if the Lord can respect that some people are destined for hell, then I can respect that some people are going to call me for help and then they're not going to let me help them. Hey, it's your time. Get paid the same.
You've partially answered. Sorry, I have a question.
Oh, my flight doesn't leave until Monday morning, so.
Brilliant. You've partially answered some of my questions from his last question. But
yes.
One of the reasons why I personally like America so much is because the people Americans are so confident. Yeah, there's this kind of aura of confidence and, well, I don't know. Unfortunately, I know most Americans don't know much outside of America.
It's true.
So, but they feel like everything starts and ends here. But my question is, for so many of us had so much confidence, but we've been restricted by virtue of so many things that has, I won't say killed or limited our confidence. There are so many people that by virtue of the laws of immigration and where they work, or sponsored by where they work, or require sponsorship by where they work, are so limited that they can't even say certain things. There is a lady there's a nurse in one of the trusts somewhere up north that is facing deportation at the moment, losing her sponsorship simply because she was treating a patient, a transgender patient, who claimed she insulted him by misgendering, and she lost her sponsorship. She's in court at the moment.
Okay.
So there's so many of us that are facing under a lot of pressure, and we have lost a lot of our confidence. But seeing you, an American,
I am.
I want us to regain that confidence that we used to have without fear of losing what we are, our values, and still retaining our excellence. So what advice will you give to those who are watching, we're always watching ahead,
yeah,
and we don't want to say things that will cost us from a perspective. Thank you.
Okay, so that's a nice, good, heavy question for me. So the first thing for me is I've got to remove the fear from that. He said something, it's like, you can't even say something because then this other thing will happen. That's not accurate. There's risks involved in you standing up and saying what you're saying, and that you don't want a bad outcome. You can say whatever you want to say. There will be consequences, right? So this is what I mean by taking can't out of that. These are the risks. And then you can say, this is the risk, and I'm afraid of that. And that's the most honest thing that you can say, that these are the risks, there's a bad outcome, I am afraid of the bad outcome. Now you say it out loud, that changes some things. Now what are you more afraid of? Are you more afraid of the bad outcome, or are you more afraid of, that you won't stand for what you believe in? What are you more afraid of? Are you more afraid of being silent when you should stand firm? Because if you're supposed to stand firm, then you need to stand firm. But if you're more afraid of man than you are of the creator of man, then that's a different problem. And it's okay, whatever the answer is, it's okay. But I think you need to be honest about this is what it really is. Yeah, I like being in a particular country, and yes, what he said about Americans is definitely true. Like, the world revolves around us, or so we seem to feel. But not Americans that look like me, if I'm being honest. But I don't really care about that, because everything that I have, every good thing I have came from the person who gives all good things. So who can take a good thing away from me except for someone stronger than me? Right? So what really happens in most of these cases is when you find somebody who wants you to feel and to be afraid, they need you to participate in their deception, and they need you to give away that thing that was provided to you from above, because that's the only way that they can win. End of discussion. If I can force a person to do something, that's different. There's at least maybe one person in here that I could pick up and walk away with, and they can't do anything about it. Like this young lady right over here. I could probably pick her right up and walk away, and she's on her phone. She's not even paying attention to me. I could sneak up behind her, pick her up, and walk away with her. I have enough force, and she doesn't have the force to stop me. Now, let's take the pastor over here. He's a significantly larger individual. He's going to have to cooperate with my deception in order for me to carry him away. He'd be like, okay, Miguel, let me help you do this because you don't have the power on your own. So when you start to think about that, I never want to give in to somebody. I don't want to give anything to them. Come take it. Right? If I have a dream, come take it from me. If I have a message, if I have an empowerment, come take it from me. I dare you. You can knock me down, I'll get back up, if for no other reason than to spite you. So at the end of the day, this is where my courage and my confidence comes from, is that whatever was given to me can only be taken away from me by someone stronger than me. And if the Bible says that we can do all things in somebody who had all the power and then decided to set it aside and then came down here, allowed himself to be crucified, then after he died, he raised himself up. Yeah, so if that guy is with me and I'm following him, who gonna take it? Who gonna take it from me, from that guy? He went to the scariest place. I'm sorry, I'm doing this thing. Went to the scariest place that we can think of. And I say this, and I shouldn't say this. I'm going to get in trouble. Somebody's going to repeat this. Like, the most gangster thing in all of human history, to go to another man's house by yourself, kick down that man's door, walk in his house, and take away his prized possessions, and then dare that man to stop you with all of his legions that include 1/3 of the angels. That's gangster. That's straight gangster. We have this idea, it's like, oh, you know, the lamb, we're never going to see the lamb again. The lamb did what the lamb was supposed to do. We got the lion now, and that lion is the one that went down there and was like, hey, you know what? You don't deserve that. I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that. But nobody stopped him. And when he got back, God was like, yeah, well done. So now you have authority of everything. So if you're operating with him, I don't know who's going to come take that. And even if they take it, it wasn't mine to begin with. Because there's people right now who have things that belong to you, that God has entrusted them to that person so they can build it, so when God takes it away from them, he gives it to you. So that's it. I'm sorry, I'm kind of in your space over here now. I don't deserve to be in that space. I want to be right in my own little space. Are there any other questions? I know that we should continue on, but I will stay up here for as long as this person tells me that to stay up here and to do.
For every question we have, we're eating into our break time, and we will, by God's grace, finish at the dot of 2.
Yes.
So, it's our choice. What do we want to do?
Somebody's hungry. Again.
If you have a question, show of hands. 2, 3. Don't forget our question, write it down. We'll pick it up.
Yeah, I'm here, happy to.
Thank you very much. So now we take a 15 minutes break. 15 minutes break for lunch. And we come back to be loaded by
No, you do it. Hi, everyone. As we take our break, just to remind you, we have 2 boards. We have one on my right, which is your left, and one on the other end. And the one on the right is actions. A great takeaway from the conference is an action point for you. What will I start doing going forward? So make that commitment. There are markers there. Just go write your commitment on the board. We really love to see what has changed or what has ticked, those paradigms that have been opened or shifted in your mind. And on the left is feedback. What are you enjoying about the conference so far? What did someone say that really touched you? Please put that in and enjoy your